Hello guys, my name is Rastility. Today, I'm going to be ranking each of the freezing towers. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of you already have a tier list in mind here, but hear me out. In this video, I'll be covering the pros and cons of each freezing tower, so this means that instead of just giving a tier list, I'll be explaining how each tower works. This is an in-depth explanation. This also doesn't cover any of the towers that can only chill enemies, so only towers that are capable of freezing are covered here. And I normally wouldn't go so far into depth for a tier list video, but it's not like there's very many freezing towers, so with that, let's begin. Number 5, I got Snowballer here. Lightning fast explanation since this is probably obvious to most of you, let's go. First of all, it has absolutely atrocious DPS, atrocious early game capabilities, and atrocious freezing and chilling. There are better and stronger options like Freezer, and there's absolutely no world where you should be using this tower. Snowballer is by far the worst tower in the game, so let's not try to lie to ourselves and say that it's any good when it does the exact same thing as Freezer, just way worse. And so at number 4, we got Frost Blaster. Now, you might be thinking, wow, Frost Blaster is worse than something like Freezer? Well, let me explain. First of all, Frost Blaster can hit multiple enemies at once, which is really good if you don't consider the fact that the chances you're actually going to hit multiple enemies is slim to none. Frost Blaster's Frost Beam is really small, so you'll have an extremely tough time hitting more than one enemy. Frost Blaster's main mechanic is instant freeze. However, this ultimately brings Frost Blaster to his downfall, only leaving his max level to be a good upgrade. This is because each freezing tower in the game has a cooldown of 1 second between freezing enemies, and Frost Blaster shoots once every 0.8 seconds at level 0. This means that when Frost Blaster hits an enemy for the first time, it'll be frozen. When it unfreezes, the second time you hit it, you won't freeze it. And Frost Blaster isn't very good at chilling enemies either, slowing them down by 30% at max on all levels. This means that this second shot is absolutely useless, completely handicapping Frost Blaster's abilities. The only good level for Frost Blaster is his max level because he has a fire rate of 1.5, making the freezing cooldown of 1 second completely irrelevant. This, along with his lack of DPS, puts Frost Blaster in last place on the ranking. I've already covered Frost Blaster and ranked him in the past, but he's in C tier on the tier list. Frost Blaster by far used to be the best freezing tower when he first got reworked, but now he's just absolutely terrible. Number 3, this probably doesn't surprise you, but we got Freezer. Now, Freezer is the most basic freezing tower. This doesn't mean he's bad, however. Let me explain. Although he may not have great range, he has pretty good slowing capabilities, slowing each enemy up to 50% at level 0 and up to 75% at level 4. He's also just incredibly cheap, making him good for early game support and easily spammable in the late game, especially when Freezer has no placement limit. If you spam a bunch of Freezers, you can easily perma-freeze enemies like the Fallen Honor Guard, which has a 75,000 HP enemy. You can also freeze enemies incredibly fast at max level, and freezes for 3 seconds. While that may not seem like a lot, he can instantly just reapply that freeze with another quick burst that he gets at max level. He also gains an ability at max level which throws a frost grenade and freezes a bunch of enemies, which is a great ability. So while he may not be the greatest, he's still viable for stalling for newer players that may not have towers like Cryomancer or Sledger. With this, he lands himself in a number 3 spot and is a B tier on the tower tier list. Number 2, we got Cryomancer. Truthfully, I've already covered Cryomancer in another one of my videos, and if you want details about what I think Cryomancer, go check that video out, it'll be linked in the description. However, I will say that Cryomancer has its own unique abilities that make it stand out from the other freezing towers, putting it in number 2 spot in an A tier on the tier list. Again, go check out my video on Cryomancer if you want details. It's really short and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Number 1, the best freezing tower in the game at the moment is Sledger. This tower is not the greatest to start out, however, it's not like you should be using him for early game anyway. At level 3 is when he truly starts to shine, when he first unlocks his freezing. This, along with the fact that he overall just has high DPS and can hit up to 7 enemies in a big AoE at max level, makes him incredible. So, not only can 6 Sledgers permanently stall an enemy, they can also do up to 600 DPS at once while also dealing damage to enemies that cross by. This is really not even close. You guys could probably guess how this tier list was gonna go from a mile away, and Sledger obviously takes the number 1 spot. He's just truly supreme compared to the other freezing towers. Now, believe it or not, but Sledger is going to be an S on the tower tier list. Sledger is truly an amazing tower, and I wouldn't rank him any less. I was even considering putting him in S+, but he's not necessarily super meta, so I'll just keep him in S tier. And that's about it for the freezing tier list video. Along with that, I'd also like to make some adjustments to the tower tier list. First off, we're moving Golden Minigunner down to A tier and Accelerator down to S tier. We will also be removing Golden Scout and Golden Soldier from the tier list because we'll be ranking them next video. Cowboy will also be moved down to B tier for no particular reason. I just thought I ranked him too highly. My name is Rastility, thank you for watching this video, and goodbye.